Hi everyone, and welcome to Creative Chelsey. Today I'm excited to share with you my third and last set of alternative cards using the August 2023 paper pumpkin kit called Meaningful Flowers. This beautiful crafting kit creates 8 handmade cards. There are enough supplies to make 4 of 2 cards. If you would like to watch me unbox the kit and create these cards, click on the playlist in the top right corner. And I will also be linking my other alternative videos there as well. Today I am sharing with you 2 cards that use up the leftover scraps I had after making my previous alternative projects. They are both simple and quick. I hope you like them. If you are new to Paper Pumpkin and are interested in getting your own monthly crafting kit, you can subscribe using the link in the description below. I would love to be your Stampin' Up! Demonstrator and help you with any questions you may have about Paper Pumpkin or Stampin' Up! Products. You can contact me through my email address, which is listed at the bottom of the description in every video. So we're going to begin with this card because there's some things that need to dry, and then we'll come back and finish it after we do card number 2. So for this card, I had these 2 pieces left over from my from the kit after I did the other alternatives that I've shared this week. And so I created a nice kind of monochromatic card front for my card base. So the first thing we need to do is cut down this, I think this is Orchid Oasis, and this is the back side or the front side of one of the card bases from the kit. And so I'm going to cut this down to 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. And you can see here this fits nicely across, just like that. So we're going to do a little bit of stamping now on the back of this Orchid Oasis piece. And I did want to stamp in Orchid Oasis to give it kind of that monochromatic feeling. And we're going to stamp this beautiful lotus flower in that Orchid Oasis. The stamp set, there were 2 in the kit, and this one is the second one. It comes with 2 flowers and a stem. So we're going to go ahead and do a large flower just right above where this vellum piece is going to sit. So just kind of place the vellum piece on. You're not adhering it, but just kind of eyeball where you should stamp your lotus flower. I just love how it looks tone on tone like that. So pretty. Then we're going to do a smaller one up a little higher on the left and one also up on the right side, closer to the top of that card stock. Then you're going to use your stem and you're going to stamp a stem on each of the smaller ones. So that one's on that side, this one's coming down. If you feel like it's going to go over the large flower, you can take a piece of scratch paper and kind of cover it up just a little bit. Okay. While we have the ink out, let's also stamp this main flower here, which is also stamped in the Orchid Oasis ink with the large flower. And then we'll add some color to it to really help it pop. So you can just place this off to the side for now. Let's go ahead and do the splattering here on the background. So this is what is going to take a little bit more time to dry. So what I have is just some craft ink, white craft ink that I have added to a clear block. I'm just going to mix it with a little bit of water. And then you're just going to tap it. Oh, that's a little too much water. Let's get a little more ink there so it's not so clear. There we go. And I'm going to soak up that spot with a little tissue. Okay, so we're going to try that again. A little bit, we want it to be thick enough that it will show up on the dark color, but we need it to be wet enough that we can just tap it down. I think I've got a little bit of water dripping out. Let's keep trying. There we go. So just some white spots all over to give it a really fun look. Okay. And then we will be using this again. So I'm not going to actually put it back in my water, just put it off to this side so that it doesn't become more diluted. And then this just goes off to the side as well. It's going to take a little bit of time for all those little white specks to dry, and I can use my heat tool to speed up the process. So we'll come back to that card. Let's go ahead and move over to our second card. I did have these three pieces left over, and I wanted to use them. So these are from my envelope. There's a green and then kind of a sky blue. And then this is also from an envelope, and it's just kind of the top piece after making, I think these come from the set of alternative number 1. So if you notice, this side here is a little angled. So I'm going to even that out, and I'm going to cut it to about 2.5 inches. From my envelope, I'm going to trim off the sides here, and I want to cut it to 4 1/8 is the final dimension that I want. So I'm measuring 4 1/8 there. And I want to keep this curve here. I thought that was fun for my card. Again, 4 1/8 is that dimension that I'm looking for. So for my card base, I'm going to take a piece of thick, basic white cardstock. I'm going to add the sky color first, and I'm going to do it upside down. So it's going to actually go from light to dark. I don't need to worry about this curve because we're not going to see it. It's just going to get hidden behind my other piece. And then I'm going to take the green piece. And if I just put it all the way on, you'll see that there's a lot of grass. So I can kind of decide how much I want by moving it up and down until it comes to a place that I'm happy with. So I'm going to cut off about 1 inch from the bottom. And that's kind of where I like it. If you want to do more or less, you can change that up. You can also stamp on these pieces if you want. I'm just keeping it really simple today. I also found that I had a little bit of linen thread left over after making my cards. So I'm going to go ahead and use up the rest by adding a little bit to this green section. So let me show you what I'm going to do. So I'm going to make it so I don't have to wrap it around the whole piece. I am going to just loop it on the back and forth. I'll show you. So this is 4 inches, so I need at least 8 inches to go in the front. Let's just add another 9 inches to that, or an extra inch to make it 9 inches. And then I'm going to go 10 inches for my bow. So I'm going to need about 19 to 20 inches. So I've added some tear and tape to the area that I want the linen thread to be. And you start with one side, and then you wrap it to the front, and then you adhere it to the tear and tape. And then instead of going all the way across, you just loop it and wrap it again. But this time we put the end there, okay? And I'll show you why we do that. So now we've got this piece here. It's a little crooked, so I'm going to actually bring this one up just a little bit higher so that it evens itself out just a little bit. Because it doesn't need to be perfect, but it does need to be somewhat across and not really angled down. So add a little adhesive. You're going to go ahead and place that where you want it. The edges should match up with your blue piece, okay? So you have this really loose piece and we have a tight piece. Okay, so we're going to work on this piece next. So you can either glue it right down to the base piece or you can pop it up. The base piece is 2 5/8 inches by 4 inches. So there should be a nice little border around the sides and top. We're going to leave the extra cardstock at the bottom for a greeting. This is a great layout when you're using up just little scraps because you can highlight them in this little frame piece like this. And then you can stamp your greeting at the bottom, which is what we're going to do. I've got Tahitian tide here. Or you know what, let's go ahead and use the pretty peacock since that's the color that came in the kit. There it is. Ink that all the way up. And then you're just going to stamp that right in the center. Just like that. And then we can add this to our card base with dimensionals as well. I'm not going to place any dimensionals in the center so that I can easily move the linen thread underneath it. So I'm going to pull that linen thread all the way to one side and then kind of eyeball where I think this should go. Try to make it nice and straight. And then I'll pinch my linen thread together and cut it at the top so each piece is even. And then I can go ahead and tie a bow here on the right side. If I wanted to, I could tie it on the left side as well. Doesn't really matter which side. Oh, don't pull too hard. That envelope paper is not very thick, and so it can rip easily. And you're going to have this really cute card. Nice and quick and simple. So let's go back to our Orchid Oasis piece. And I can tell that it's not quite dried. So I'm going to go ahead and heat it up with my heat tool to try and get those little splatters to dry a little faster. All right, so this is taking a little longer than I want it to take to dry. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep moving on. So I'm just going to be really careful with it and make sure I don't make sure that I don't rub it. Okay, so I just realized that my original card has dimensionals, but I already started with liquid glue. So I'm just going to go ahead and place this in the center with a little liquid glue. There will be a little bigger border than what we've been doing this last week with our alternatives. So I'm just going to try to make sure that goes on there. I'll have to, let's see if I can do this. So if we carefully open it, I can smooth it out on the back side. Let's see if I ruined it. Oh, it's not too bad. Kind of just flattened out all of the circles, and I do have a little bit of splatters happening now, so we can just kind of clean those up real quick. Okay, so that goes off to the side. The next thing is the vellum. So I really wanted the greeting to pop, so I decided to do some heat embossing with white embossing powder on my vellum. The most important thing to do with your embossing and to get the best result is actually to use an embossing buddy. So make sure to place a lot of embossing buddy in that area. And then another fun tip, and this was really nice to do with the vellum, is to use Whisper White craft ink when stamping. So I like this for a couple reasons. I could see where I was stamping my greeting, so that was really helpful. And so the other thing that it will do is it will hold on to that white embossing powder, just like Versamark does, because it will stay wet a little longer than a water-based ink does. So it will hold on to it. And now we can heat that up with our heat tool. You do want to be careful with vellum that you don't get too close because it can warp the paper. So that is ready. We're going to place some glue dots in the corners, and that should just go right at the bottom, just like that. So it's a really nice touch to that card. Okay, let's move over to our stamped lotus flower. And I wanted to use some more of my watercolor pencils for this. So I chose two colors. I've got a gorgeous grape and my rich raspberry color, and I think they're going to work really nicely together. I also wanted to bring in my blender pen just to make things nice and smooth. So I'm going to start with my gorgeous grape and just lightly add color kind of all over, especially in the white areas. I'm going to stay away from the center, and I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to the center. I'm going to go ahead and take my yellow, this is Daffodil Delight, and I'm going to go ahead and really strongly add some color right there in the center. Then I'm going to take my rich raspberry, and this is going to be kind of the pinks that you see in the flower. So I'm going to kind of focus those in the center, and this is going to help them kind of pop. So a little bit on every petal. Try to keep it closer to the center of the flower rather than the edges. So now comes the magic. So you're going to take a blender pen and make sure it's clean. I've got a little bit of yellow there, so I'm going to go ahead and start with the yellow, and I'm just going to kind of blend. Then once that color is cleaned up, I can go in and just smooth out those purples. Kind of mix them together so that I get a nice variation between the rich raspberry, that more red purple, with the gorgeous grape purple. The thing with a blender pen is you don't want to go over your paper too much. So once you've gone over it, you're going to kind of let it be. And then remember how I mentioned we're going to use a little bit of the white. And this is just going to go back in and highlight some of those areas. So if you want, you can take a look at the original card. It will give you some ideas on where you can place those highlights. So I'm going to just start with a couple down at the bottom. Okay. And here, maybe a little bit there. Just going to have some fun. So that's what it's going to look like now. And like I said, it will lighten up just a little bit. Okay, so while that dries, we're going to go ahead and fussy cut this out. So just keep in mind to not rub your fingers inside the flower. Just keep everything along the outside while it dries. So we're going to go ahead and add this to our card base. Let's grab a dimensional or two. And you can place this down by the greeting, and you're going to still see the tone-on-tone flowers in the background. So the last thing I wanted to add to this card were just a couple of the clear dots. So I'm going to place two down by the greeting on the vellum, and then one kind of up in the splatters. And my card is all done. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching me create these 2 cards, which use some of the leftover scraps from the August 2023 paper pumpkin kit. If you would like to see written instructions or close-up images on how I created these cards, you can visit my blog, creativechelsey.com. Thanks so much for watching. Have a creative day. Bye.